Hey everybody, well my name is Anna. I'm part of the Way World Outreach Prison Ministry as well as part of the Usher team. I've been serving for about 5 years, going into the prisons, juvenile halls. I wanted to share a little bit about my testimony. Many of you may have heard my testimony with my husband, but I've never really shared my testimony. So I was born into a dysfunctional family. My father was an alcoholic, abusive, um, gang related, gang affiliated. Um, those things kind of passed on through generational curse. I grew up thinking that that was the lifestyle, that was the way to live, not understanding that it wasn't. So at a very young age, around being in the fifth grade, I remember my dad would take us to buy, the dress attire, the cholo shoes, the baggy clothes, whatnot, everything that went with it. We watched him tattoo himself. We did, it was just a lifestyle that my brothers and I grew up in, believing that it was normal. And actually, it wasn't. So by the age of 13, um, I got jumped into the neighborhood. Right before that happening, I was introduced by an older cousin um, into drugs, PCP, sniffing paint, um, smoking weed. And at that age, around the age of 12, um, I was not aware of it at the moment, but I was raped. I thought I was in a relationship with an older boy that, I thought it was cool. I was high on paint, sniffing paint, and I was taken advantage of. I was sent to live with my dad because of that. And when I returned home to my mom about 6 months later is when I actually got jumped into the neighborhood and ended up dating really young with a guy that was 5 years older than me. I was 13 at the time. So again, what I thought was cool, what I thought didn't think of anything of because of the situation that had already happened to me. That time it was kind of just hush hush for everybody. Nobody really talked about it. I kind of just pushed it under the carpet of what had happened. So thinking that this relationship, this first boyfriend that I really had, it was a year-long relationship. He was older than I, and I didn't understand why nobody liked it or approved of it. I just seen he was older in the neighborhood, and again, it was just all about getting high, you know, learning the rules of the streets, learning the rules of the neighborhood, what you say, what you don't say. Um, and from that point, it just escalated. Um, I guess there was sexual relationships going on. So, of course, my parents, my mom, especially because I lived with my mom, was not used to any of that stuff. So when these things were occurring, I know she didn't know how to deal with us a lot of times. She was really strict with us, so we found ways, my brothers and I found ways to maneuver around her, to still do what we were going to do in the neighborhood. And from that point on, it just escalated. I started getting high on meth at a really young age, probably around 13. I've had already, by 14, 15, I had already experienced lots of drugs, acid, PCP, sniffing paint, drinking, just almost anything that was out there. And I began to become really, really aggressive, I guess. Um, I earned a name for myself by fighting. I used to be really quiet, really shy, and just the things that were out there, when you're on drugs, when you're getting high, when you're drinking, it changes your whole attitude. I became addicted to meth, which really changed who I was. Really, my identity was stolen. Um, my brothers were also affiliated in the neighborhood, So there was many times, that we would come across things and do things or get involved in stuff. And I remember there was a time my brother was something was happening, and I went to go to some family members to get a weapon to protect my brother. And at that time, a cousin of mine also raped me, and it was something I never told anybody about. It was shameful. um, I never talked to anybody, and it wasn't until recently that a pastor at a barbecue we were talking, and he had mentioned that something happened to me around the age of 13, 14. And being that nobody knew, I knew that God was using him to speak to me, telling me I needed inner healing. It was just something to this day is very hard for me to speak about. But I wanted to share my testimony with you young girls to let you know that the devil's a liar. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. We're born with a purpose. The Word of God says that He knows us when we're in our mother's womb. And I truly believe that Jeremiah 29:11 is for each and every one of us, that He has a plan and purpose. And the enemy's plan is to come and steal that, making things seem pleasurable to us, making things seem like, it's cool, that there's nothing wrong with it. And, it really came to my attention today with our pastor was speaking today about, the new laws and how it's going to kind of be okay for a 24-year-old to sleep with a 14-year-old. I know as young girls and, coming from a teenager to a young adult, and, we really don't understand what's out there. We think we're grown and we think we know all about what the world is about, but we really don't. Today I look back and I look at girls that are 12 and 13 when I was that age, and I think about what happened to me, and I look at these, young girls. I look at, girls that are that age, and I'm like, man, they're just babies. I see my son, 17 years old. By 17 years old, I had my own place. I was on my own. I was running the streets. I had already did the most. And I look at my son, and he's just a kid, and it's like the enemy has us deceived. And, I thank God. I thank God that all along my life, everything that I've been through, to go backwards, at the age of 13, I ended up getting in a fight with a girl that was 5 years older than me. We're fighting, and we're on the ground, and I'm we're just having it out, and she puts her arms to my throat, and she starts choking me. And all I remember is looking down, and I could see my body. I had an out-of-body experience. I died for a few seconds, I believe. I looked down, I could see my body on the ground. They brought me back. And then again, when I was like 21, I died for 3 minutes. And at the hospital, they revived me, brought me back. And I questioned God, like, why did you bring me back to suffer in this world? Like, all the things I've been through, the abusive relationships, just being homeless, being high because I had nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep, nowhere to stay. So I would just get high. My son's dad at the time, I was like 17 when I had got with my son's dad, and that relationship was real abusive. He was in and out of jail, juvenile hall to jail to prison. And, when I found the Lord in my 20s, I had told him, like, I can't be with you no more because, I found God, and, I was trying to do things right. So he's like, oh, let's get married, and we have to be careful what we pray for, what we think for, because we were unequally yoked. And I didn't understand what that meant, but he was not a believer. So me trying to do the right thing, I married him. That abuse just came into the marriage. I would get abused for going to church. I became a prisoner in my own home where I couldn't buy my own clothes. I couldn't go outside the door. I couldn't talk to family. I couldn't talk to people. I had to act like I didn't know you. And from 17 on, until he went to prison in 2002, it was on and off like that, ugly fights all the time. Staying here and there because my family didn't approve of him. He didn't like them. He used to fight with a lot of my family. And so I really missed out on my childhood. I really missed out on my childhood, and I didn't really understand that till now. And through those moments of him going to prison is where, God will always still let you do what you want to do. I thought I was free. I would go do things, always believing in God. But I thank God through those times of everything that I've been through. His keeping power was with me. He would always warn me, speak to me. He was with me through it all. There's times that, I should not be here. There were shootouts, that bullets flying past my head that, I could hear. And God spared my life. And I really didn't understand why. I'd question God, like, why am I still here to suffer? Like, everything I lived through and have gone through, like, why am I here? But today I understand my purpose. Um, and it's to be able to share with the young. Not everybody's able to stand. Like, many are called if you are chosen, but I know that I'm chosen to stand and to stand firm and to fight. Where not everybody's gifted differently. I was a fighter in the world. I fought for what I believed. I fought for my neighborhood. I fought for the homies. I fought for my family. I was always the protector, of my brothers, my grandma, my mom. I was always a protector, fighting, to make sure they were safe, and today God has chosen me to fight in prayer, for people, for young girls, to let them know that, there is hope. Sometimes, I think when I got jumped into that neighborhood, or I was in those relationships with those older men and I didn't see nothing wrong with it, I was seeking a father because my dad was not really around. He's around, but not really there. I used to want to be close to him, but because I wasn't a boy to carry the last name, I was rejected, and I dealt with a lot of rejection, and I was seeking that in a man. And, today I seek that from God, not to say that it's not out there and things are not going to come at you and it's not going to seem good, it's not going to look good. But, part of the testimony with my husband, when we were going through things and we were about to be divorced and he didn't know what he wanted. He did a lot of time in prison. So when he didn't know what he wanted, I gave up. I was like, I'm praying in vain for nothing. Like, God, I prayed and he just got worse. He don't know what he wants. So I let him be. Well, at that same time, everything I wanted from my husband, I also believe that the devil will bless you too. He put a person in my path that gave me everything that my husband didn't. Everything that bothered my husband didn't bother this person. And it wasn't even sexual. It was just like the time, the attention, all these things. But little by little, there was red flags.